Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Range Talk podcast. My name is Isaiah.
And Boaz.
And today we are going to be talking about something more of a how-to be a better airsofter. And by that, we don't mean necessarily
we're going to teach you how to pie the corners, clear the rooms, you know, how you should train your trigger finger to give you that hairpin excellence, you know?
The proper way to properly set up your carbine and everything. No, none of that. We're not going to be talking about any of that, actually. We're going to instead be talking something a little bit more personal, a little bit more wholesome, if you will. How to be a better airsoft member in the community, parentheses, there you go.
Yeah, because, I think with Airsoft, it becomes, in my experience, I think it's kind of like easily overlooked that we are kind of part of the community. Maybe it's because like a lot of it has to do with like you're shooting at someone else type of thing, so it's easy to see other players as like the enemy. But at the end of the day, you know, like we all have to remember that we are all friends, and we are all not friends, but we're part of a community, and you know, a community like that, like this, like it needs to. We need to nurture it, and we need to keep the community healthy in order for it to thrive and still keep our hobby alive.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And there's many ways any player can go ahead and do it. And there's many instances that I'm sure we all have stories. But we're going to dive a little bit further into this. And why don't we start with you, Boaz? Was there ever a moment when you were a newer player, just little tiny Boaz getting into Airsoft, where you experienced the good nature of another Airsoft player that kept you wanting to keep going?
Yes, actually. Well, when I first started playing, I believe I was like 13 years old. And I hit my local airsoft field for the first time, and I got absolutely slam dunked on.
What was the field?
Slam dunked. It was Hollywood Sports.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, Hollywood Sports, first time. You know, I had my Walmart bucket of BBs and my G&G combat machine, and I got absolutely slam dunked on by these older players who were more experienced. You know, they had like the whole Milsim loadout and everything, you know.
Of course.
I mean, the people on my side, or like the people on quote unquote my team, because it was like bands versus no bands.
Yeah, of course.
They generally tended to be a lot nicer to me compared to like the other dudes who weren't, you know. So I think my first experience playing Airsoft wasn't very good. And honestly, if it kept on like that, I think I would have left the hobby. But my experience, I guess you would say, like with a good Samaritan, when I was actually, I met our head tech Taylor in high school. And so I was actually wearing an Airsoft GI t-shirt freshman year of high school, and I was walking to the bathroom, and then that's when I met Taylor. He saw, I was like, hey, Airsoft GI, you know, so we started talking, and he told me that he was a tech, and so we started playing Airsoft together. And he would actually work on my guns, because I'm not super mechanically inclined. You know, as I stated in a lot of my videos, like I do not like working on my own guns, because, you know, like I'm not talented that way.
I feel it.
With the small parts, like big parts, like working on cars for certain, or like other big things, like I'm okay at. But yeah, just like the little small parts with like Airsoft stuff, like I can't really do it. So, you know, Taylor, he's just very talented. You know, even since even in high school, like he was always working on my guns, upgrading them. You know, and and he ended up becoming, you know, like one of my best friends. And you know, like that relationship alone. I mean, I actually, some of my closest friends in general, you know, I've just met through Airsoft.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's how we like make lifelong friends at the end of the day, right? That's one thing that kind of gets rid of that I don't know, it's like that, the sort of like hesitancy that we have to like go out and meet people is that like, hey, there's already a thing that we can relate on, that being Airsoft. But what was your experience like outside of being like, you know, destroyed at, you know, obviously you were able to meet Taylor and everything, but when you were playing, you said you got absolutely just curb stomped. Was it just the fact that it was also losing, or was it a lot of the players' attitude towards you?
I mean, like I said, like Airsoft in general, I think a lot of players just don't necessarily, they're not really cognizant of the fact that we are all part of the same community. So like the opposing team, you know, like they just treated us like we were the enemy.
So even,
you know,
off the actual field, like in the staging area?
I mean, they just, you know, like, yeah, like they wouldn't really talk to us, like, or me, because, you know, like I'm a kid, or like they were just very like cold and distant, if you will. So like I said, my first experience it wasn't very good. But I would say Taylor, when I first met him, and you know, him offering to like help upgrade my gun for free, you know, like he re-shimmed my gearbox for free. He adjusted my angle of engagement for free. He even like when I bought the Airsoft GI Type 4 inner barrel back in the day when GI used to sell them.
Our own branded ones, yeah.
Yeah, the branded ones. I bought one longer for my combat machine because I wanted to put a mock suppressor. And he actually custom made me a mock not the best looking, obviously, because it was made with like PVC and some other things, but he was willing to do that all for me for free.
That's absolutely awesome. I mean, my first experience there, it's funny, Hollywood Sports was actually my home field growing up too. I went there constantly. I was always looking for opportunities to go there, even with again, borrowed guns and everything. I do kind of get that. I definitely got my ass handed to me several occasions. I got curb stomped, especially by a lot of the older players. I think when we started getting into it, I don't know if I'm wrong, HPA was just barely making its way into it, right? It was becoming a little bit more and more popular.
No, I don't think I've ever ran into an HPA player until way later.
Because I remember,
well, for high school, yeah, later in high school, for me, yeah.
Because I remember me starting to get into it, and HPA was just getting started, and I saw a few players who you could tell they definitely had money. They were just absolutely owning it. Not saying that that's the key to victory, but at the time as a kid, I thought, oh man, I'm just, I was feeling bad too. I get that as well. But thankfully, some of the best experiences I've had was actually talking to some of the players, even if they were on the opposite team. I would literally just go up to them and ask them hey, that's a really cool gun, or that's a really cool loadout. What is it that you're using? And especially a lot of the older dudes, in their 30s and up, they actually were like, oh yeah, dude, I have this Condor plate carrier. I'm rocking this tornado holster, back when tornadoes were all the rage. I'm running the clothing. I got this, this is a Emerson, whatever, actual combat tops and bottoms. But them actually putting together a list, and then me telling them, I have a budget, I want to get my own stuff, what would you recommend? Having that kind of interaction definitely made it a lot easier and a lot more fun for me, as opposed to, because I have had the opposite experience too, where I've been to other fields, I won't say names, but I've tried to talk to the player base, and they just did not want to talk to me. Give me one-word responses whenever I ask them questions. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So again, it just goes to show that a lot of players are just not cognizant, of that. The fact that even the ops are part of the community, and we have to, nurture and care for them, because the next time you're at the field, hey, they might be on your team, So for me, my personal experience, I think I'm very passionate about fostering and taking care of the community, or even to an extent, somewhat of a gatekeep in order to keep the culture of the community healthy.
Okay.
I'm very passionate about it because I did not have a good experience when I first started out. And for me, when I see a newer player, I do not want them to have a negative experience, because I want them to play.
Of course.
Because at the end of the day, more players means more people we get to shoot at,
Not only that, but at the end of the day, that's going to more players. That's going to support the industry. That's going to protect our jobs, and also it's going to keep it going for longer and longer. Because without more players, Airsoft's going to die.
Yeah, exactly. So especially with how the negative perception of Airsoft in the public eye.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just because of how social media and how the algorithm propagates negative content. The public already just doesn't really have a very positive view on Airsoft. So the chances of people willing to step into the hobby has become diminished compared to the early 2010s, where everyone thought Airsoft was cool. Now people kind of see it as isn't that where all the toxic people go and mag dump newcomers and stuff like that? I want to fight against that and try to create a healthier community.
Have you ever had, because you said that you don't actually mind gatekeeping to an extent, if it means for the sake of, and the health of the community itself, has that ever happened to you where maybe you've tried to do something, I don't know, maybe, I won't say morally questionable, because at the end of the day it's just Airsoft, right? But something that was a little spicy, and then someone had to step in and be like, hey, maybe that's not a good idea, or maybe just don't do this.
Oh yeah, I mean, there have been a couple times in my life that I'm not really proud of.
Sure.
That I let my emotions get the best of me during a game, and so I would intentionally overshoot people with my LMG, and so it resulted in a verbal altercation, almost got physical, but it was my fault. It was my fault at the end of the day. It's stuff that I'm not really proud of doing, and something that I would never want to do again. Man, I sound like a YouTube apology video. I've grown a lot as a person.
Hey man, should I bring up the ukulele for you?
Yeah.
No, but I get that. We're at the end of the day, we all started this when we were kids, right? We were around the same age when we started this. We were definitely not have even if we were mature for our ages, we definitely didn't have 100% control over how we react to our own emotions. I've had that happen to me before, where I've been heated before in an argument. I'm not proud of it. I've actually almost got into. I did get into someone's face one time because I I know for a fact that I was hitting them. The player clearly was cheating. It was very blatant. The refs weren't doing anything. I was just very frustrated throughout the day, and it got to a point where I just was frustrated about other stuff going on at home, and I took it out right then and there, and I thought it was a good idea to get in someone's face and start arguing. It was one of the worst Airsoft experience that I'd ever done. Thankfully, I had friends there that were there to pull me back and just say hey man, it's not worth it. I'm very lucky that I didn't get kicked out of the field myself, or that I didn't get banned, right? I'm not proud of that, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's still just a matter of one, I think surrounding yourself with people that are good community members that are going to, I guess, sort of guide you along the way, and then also call you out when, hey, this isn't cool, don't do that, try not to do it again. That's fine. Not that they need to be hey, you're out of here forever, but just in general, just calling you out when you're doing something wrong, so that way you can make amends and do the right thing. I think that's kind of important to have.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I hate it when people complain about cheating, dude. That's one part, I think one attitude that I try to gatekeep out of the community is it sucks if you shoot someone and you see that they didn't call it. Yeah, it sucks because at the end of the day, it just means that they're not willing to play the game. The game is, you agree, we both agree, if you get shot with a BB anywhere, you call it. But at the end of the day, the whole point of Airsoft isn't to rack up a super high kill count or argue with each other. Oh, I shot you. No. The whole point is, you show up with your cool gun, right? In your cool loadout, right? With your cool friends, and then you have fun. You get to shoot each other, with it. And so, whenever, even whenever some of our friends go, oh, the cheaters, blah, 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 I just tell them, hey, man, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, who cares, dude? Hey, if that person's cheating, dude, tell the ref. If it matters that much, then tell the ref. And if they're still not calling, just move on somewhere else, go to a different area of the map, where the cheater's not there. And, or just who cares? Just don't let that eat away at you, the fact that you shot them and didn't call it out. Hey, if you shot them, that's cool,
No, I've seen this firsthand with you, where when we played together, when for a fact that and because you've even said before, I'm pretty sure I hit this guy, right? You'll tag him a few times, and I'm watching it happen. You're okay, he's not calling. I'm gonna move somewhere else. You will literally just move to a different side of the map where he's not at, or just call the ref over if you really feel that inclined.
Yeah, because if I'm gonna just raise hell and be oh, you're a cheater, I shot you, I'm just ruining the experience for everyone else. Now all my other buddies are oh, there goes Boaz again, ranting about some cheaters or whatever. You become an emotional drain on everybody else at the field. All because you're upset that someone didn't call their hit. It's such a pain for everyone else to deal with.
Well, one thing aspect of that I actually didn't even realize until about a year ago, we forget that we've been playing this for a long time, so it's kind of hard to remember our age in this field, but we're grown adults, right? There are a lot of younger kids playing. So when a younger kid sees a grown-ass man arguing with someone, even if they are a younger person, that really intimidates small children.
That's really intimidating, yeah.
If I was a kid and I saw, which I have, I've seen stuff like that, I try my best to avoid conflict whenever possible. If I see the actual altercations, I'm nope, I'm going the opposite direction. If I see that in Airsoft, that it's constantly being posted out there, or if I'm going to my local field and I'm constantly seeing that, I'm not gonna want to play.
Yeah, man, because at the day of the field, day at the Airsoft field, it's a party, man.
Yeah,
it's a party, and I want to keep that atmosphere alive.
Mm-hmm.
Especially even as a kid, especially when I was a kid. So if I see grown men arguing at each other, oh, I shot you, then party's over, man. Party's ruined. Now the rest of the day, I feel I have to walk on eggshells around people, and it stops being fun.
No, I 100% agree to that. It's like bringing your drunk uncles to a Chuck E. Cheese,
oh,
right?
Yeah,
it's going to ruin the experience for everyone.
Yeah.
But, okay, so that's obviously something that you shouldn't do, right? But in general, I think the takeaway for that in terms of advice or how you can be a good community member for that story would be, again, if you are experiencing any form of players cheating against you, someone on the other side is cheating, or if you see one of your own teammates cheating, it's good to call your teammates out. Again, let the refs know, right? That's the first thing. Let the refs know. Maybe move on to a different side of the map. Avoid them altogether. And if they come, this is the other part of it, right? Now, if they become confrontational, if the other person just decides to be confrontational, saying, oh, I got you out, I hit you here, I hit you. For me, my solution to that is I usually just say, okay, and I'll just call myself out. Because who knows, at the end of the day, I'm wearing plate gears. We go out in full gear, right? There is a possibility that we've been hit and we just don't feel it, right? Boaz, you'll wear actual plates too when you play. So it's possible, but we don't even try to fight it.
Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, I get to respawn. I get to respawn. I get to play like, hey, like if I get hit and like get out of the game, I'm not losing like $1 million. You know, like my family's not gonna die. You know, so it's nothing at stake. You know, so. In order to just keep the spirit of the game alive, like, hey, like I'm okay. I'm willing to walk back to the respawn and play again, you know, like, and give the other person the kill. But aside from like, you know, the whole lecture on cheating or whatnot. But sometimes, like, you know, even when I do get hit, I'll tell the people, hey, nice shot. You know, hey, good shot. You know, I give the enemy, you know, I give the opposing players, hey, I give them credit. You know, if they nailed a good shot at me, I tell them, hey, good shot, man. And sometimes I'll even ask them, like, dude, like your gun shoots really far, you know?
Like, what do you got in there?
Yeah, what do you got in there, you know? So that way, like, you know, they'll feel good or better about, you know, getting the kill on me, you know? Like, even at BB Wars, I always ask people, hey, who shot me? You know, who shot me? And then, you know, I congratulate them, you know? Because at the end of the day, like, well, we're all here to shoot each other, you know? So, like, when we treat it like, you know, it's a game, and we congratulate people on, you know, getting a kill, whatever. You know, yeah, like it keeps the spirit of the community alive. You know.
If anything, like whenever I meet or I'm face to face with someone that killed me, especially like, you know, even if we're off the field or we're in the staging area, I'll laugh about it. It's like, oh man, you got me real good. Like I was being an idiot. Why did I decide to push this corner when I didn't check? Right? That's something you can always do, right? Just laugh about it, joke. Because again, it's low stakes. I think that's kind of the key phrase here. It's very low stakes. It's not like we're investing like billions upon billions of dollars just to play for one day. You know what I mean? Or there's like a grand prize at the end of it. Even in a competitive scene, I will say, even in a competitive scene, we're still there because you guys like to play the sport itself. There's no point in arguing and trying to be toxic there the entire time and be argumentative. Now, again, if a player is being argumentative with you and you're trying to avoid the situation or take steps to diffuse it, again, that's when you really should be involving the ref. Has it actually ever happened to you where a player was just, even though you tried to be, you know, non-combative or non-argumentative, a player just was unrelenting in their like assault on you, being like, no, I got you.
I mean, I don't think I've ever had that happen to me. Like the only times I've really gotten really confrontational or like hostile was like, again, back in the day when I was younger and like I let the emotions get the best of me, it would be my fault.
Sure.
But when it's not, like when I'm not causing the problem, you know, like, no, like if someone says, hey, I got you, I'll just be like, all right, cool, yeah, good shot, man, and then I would just leave, you know. Or if I think a couple of times I did tell refs, I'm like, hey, like I think this player, you know, like with that plate carrier or whatever, that color of clothing, I think he might not be calling you. Could you keep an eye on him? And then, you know, that'll be that. But one thing that I like to do when I'm playing at a field is I always like to find players, like, you know, if they look like a newer player or, you know, like anyone I'm talking with, I always at least try at least once to compliment either the loadout or their gun, you know. So because, you know, like nothing sucks more, I think, as someone who's like a classical overthinker, is like, you know, I'm out there with my airsoft gun, you know, and I'm like, oh shoot, like did I make the right purchase, you know? Because that's another thing about the airsoft community is like there are like an approved list of good guns, and there's like a really long list of bad guns, you know? So I'm like, oh dude, like I'm out here with like this new bow manufacturing DB15 Honey Badger, you know, Diamondback, whatever, right? And I'm like, oh, like does this gun suck? Do people think this gun sucks or whatever?
Yeah.
You know, and
you're looking for validation.
Yeah. You want to validate your purchases, you know? That's part of the hobby. And you know, if other people go like, oh, that gun's trash, or oh man, you bought the wrong gun. Yeah, that sucks, man. Like that's not gonna make me want to play for the rest of the day, you know? So sometimes, like, you know, like I'll go up to a newer player and be like, hey, like is that the Arcturus Sportline this or that, or hell, like is that the especially if it's a KWA. If it's a KWA original, I'll be like, oh, that's the best, you know. Or sometimes, you know, that's a really cool model, like the Lancer Gen 2. Like I really like that model, you know, like something like that, you know, to encourage him to keep playing.
Even if it's like, I'll do something similar, but whenever I find that it's a player who's using like maybe like we know that it's not very good, right? Like there just really is, objectively, there is guns and gear that exist out there that just aren't as great. So even when I see, like, you know, we're talking like Springers and stuff, right? Even when I see players bringing that out there, for me, I can kind of remember a time when that's all I could bring to a field, and I do not want to make them feel bad, and in fact the opposite. So even though they were using the Springer, I'll ask like, oh hey, let me see that Springer, and I'll tell them like, oh I had one very much like this one back in the day, right? I got a few kills with it, which I did, but you know, I'm not gonna specify how many or how little. But I do try to make them feel good, even if it's a bad. I don't want to say bad, even that's all that they could realistically afford. Because again, I don't know what financial situation they're in. I don't know what their house life is like or what they can realistically afford and what they can't. So just seeing that, like they're like, oh, okay, cool, it's not so bad. Again, it's
I mean, I mean, personally for me, there's a list of brands that I don't like.
Yeah.
There's brands of guns that I don't buy. Like I will not go out of my way to buy. Even if the guns were given to me for free, I would not keep them.
Oh, really?
You know, like yeah, I mean, I'm not here to name any names because
Sure.
I don't really like that part of the culture, the airsoft culture. But yeah, like, but if a player is rocking a gun that I personally don't really like, made by a brand that I don't personally enjoy, like, hey, at the end of the day, like they bought the gun because they liked it, you know.
I'm assuming.
So I'll just be like, hey, that's a cool this or that, or hey, that's a cool gun, you know. Like I might. Instead of being like, oh, dude, that gun freaking sucks.
Trash.
It's trash. Bro. It's just gonna break, dude. And like, oh, you know, like, no, dude. That's not gonna encourage a player to keep playing, you know, because I think when we say that, like, 50% is a joke, and also 50% is supposed to be like we want to like educate them and be like, oh, these are the good brands. You need to buy like these guns, like. And so in our heads we're thinking like, oh, like if we say that gun is trash or whatever, and be like blunt and forward with them, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, maybe the next gun I'm gonna buy is gonna be that gun. Like no, dude, like they're gonna be like, oh dude, these guys say my guns suck. You know, I can't believe I spent this amount of money. Like, dude, Airsoft freaking sucks. I don't want to play anymore.
That doesn't mean that you can't have your opinions. Of course not. Boaz has his opinions. I have my opinions. And if they ask for your genuine opinions, then feel free to do so in a constructive way. Don't be like, use that as an excuse to just rail someone, right? At the end of the day, you just want to like if you do want to let them know why. I'm not a big fan of this brand because they don't include this, or they don't do this. Whatever the case might be, that's going to be a lot more constructive. And if you do want to steer them in the right way, that's going to drive home the point a lot more effectively. But when you were saying that you had started, you know, Taylor had recognized you because of Airsoft GI. Had he been playing longer than you have at that point?
Oh yeah, I mean Taylor is like a few years older than me.
I forget that.
So yeah, so he is a few years older than me. So he has been playing for longer. When I first met him, he had an AEG. Was it the Snow Wolf or the SOCON gear? Barrett M8250 cal.
Oh
Yeah. And that thing could go full auto, and dude, that thing was scary. That was the hardest shooting airsoft gun I've ever like shot or been shot at by. What was this far in my life?
What was your experience with him like when you guys started? Because I'm assuming there was some point when you guys were talking about what you guys ran and all the guns.
Yeah.
Did he give you like fairly a decent experience when it came to like you showing off your guns? Like he didn't trash your stuff, right?
No, he did.
Oh.
So he was like, oh man, like the G&G combat machines suck or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well it's what I got, you know, but can you work on it? It's like, yeah, I can work on it. And I was like, all right, so what do I need to do to make it not suck, you know? And okay, then you need these parts. So, you know, like it became a cycle of like me saving up money, buying parts at GI, and then going to Taylor's house, and then like, hey, can you install this for me? And you know, he'd install it for me, you know, and like I'll be like, all right, like what part do I need next, you know? So it kind of became like that cycle, you know, and I think that really kept me in the hobby, you know, like if I like hadn't had Taylor, I'm not sure if I would have been in Airsoft, you know, like to this day.
No, I can see that. Like we used to make the joke, right, that he's keeping us alive in this hobby, right?
Yeah,
Because of all the guns that we have.
Oh yeah.
Especially because we like. I know you are like. This is something that we do related. We actually do like stuff other than ARs. I know you're known as like one of the guys that just loves your ARs, but at the end of the day, you do like other like obscure stuff too. You do like more random stuff.
Yeah. The only problem is the only reason why I don't buy more exotic guns is just because I'm not confident in the fact that like it'll stand up to the level of abuse I put through my guns. Like, yeah, if you guys know me personally, like I abuse the absolute crap out of my guns, and so if I'm recommending you something, it usually means that it has withstood the Boaz test of abuse. So, you know, that and like parts, like replacement parts are hard to come by. Like if I break something on a KWA, like I've broken lots of stuff on KWAs before. Like I could just call up KWA and I could just buy parts from them, like, you know,
fair enough,
readily available. So yeah, but yes, yeah, I don't only run M4s.
One thing that I actually wanted to talk about too is also another thing that you can do to be a better community member as well. I don't know if you get this as often. I get this a lot on my live streams. People are constantly asking, for advice and for tips for entering the sort of milsim scene. Because we've been doing Milsim West for the same amount of time. We both started in early 2019.
Yeah.
Right? So we've been doing the same amount of time. But we have good amount of experience doing this.
Yeah.
So I'll have people constantly asking, because it seems like there's a lot of stuff, people mystify to an extent, or they exotify the Milsim West experience, or just Milsim in general. So they're constantly asking, oh, do I need this? Do I need to look this way? Do I need to have my gun set up this way? Because I don't want to be called cringe or anything like that. Have you ever had people come up to you asking for advice like that, or?
Oh yeah, I mean all the time. Then it becomes like a whole schizophrenic rabbit hole, of advice. You need this and then. But it just comes from experience of years of us doing it together, and us kind of improving our kit over time. I think honestly that's kind of the beauty of it. I think there is a beauty in showing up completely not prepared,
yes.
and then you realize, oh, I need this next time. That's part of. To me personally, I see it as that's part of the hobby.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, people ask me for gear and gun recommendations all the time. Both at GI, Airsoft GI, or outside of GI. And it's always fun to talk about guns and gear. But a lot of times, especially with the newer players, like I said, my first thing I try to do is I try to compliment what they have, what they already have, because all the newer players they know what they have is not, or subpar, or they feel like they're subpar, you know, compared to some dude with all cry cut stuff and
yes.
genuine plate carriers and
Feral concepts
yeah
only.
$600 airsoft guns, they see the people with the high end gear and they're like, man, my gear sucks, so so for me to tell them, hey, that's a really cool gun, or hey, I used to own that gun, it's a good one, you know. Or I love the red dot setup you have, and your accessories on the gun, it's very well thought out, it goes a long way for them.
For me, it's just more not even goes beyond the guns and the gear itself. It's more so just this idea, because apparently this does happen quite a bit, where people who try to get into the milsim scene are almost the same thing, the same classic story where they're either laughed at, they're mocked online, especially if they're going on sites like Reddit or any sort of forum-based stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So I really try my
Nobody
best.
should be on Reddit.
No, nobody should be on Reddit.
Nobody should be on Reddit, period.
Not in this day and age,
yeah.
no. But no, because I really want to demystify. That's always been one of the mission that I've had. I really wanted to demystify what it takes to really do a milsim event, making it a little bit more easy, a little more accessible, and less intimidating for players.
I mean, I think that's a topic we can cover on a separate episode.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
It's a whole another rabbit hole. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's at least the milsim events that we go to is mostly camping. So you should gear your focus mostly on what we call sustainment. So being smart with the food, bringing enough water, and staying warm, especially in cold environments. Stuff like that, I mean, there's other milsim events out there that aren't as campy, and they're more red team and blue team, 3, 2, 1, fight,
Big force on force events.
I mean that, to me personally, that's fun for a while, but it's cool that the milsim events that we go to is a bit more
extreme, I guess.
Yeah, they're less focused on just the big set piece giant firefights, because that gets tiring after a while. But yeah, I mean, but one thing that I want to ask you about actually is what do you do in order to keep the hobby or the community healthy while you're at an airsoft field? Is there anything that you particularly do? Is that something that you're conscious about when you're playing?
Yes, no, absolutely. That's something that especially when I started working at GI, before working GI, I definitely wanted to be the cool guy that that I had experienced, the guys that that older, a little more experienced, had cool gear, but they weren't jerks essentially when the younger players talked to them. That was an image that I did wanted to replicate for myself and emulate. But especially when I started working at GI back in 2017, I felt like I had this responsibility, right? I had this big responsibility, hey, whatever I do, whatever I say is ultimately going to reflect on the company itself, right? It's ultimately going to have GI's name plastered over it, right? So if I go out, hypothetically, right, and I decide to, let me just be a toxic player, right? To everyone, just be an absolute jerk, that's ultimately going to come back to bite me in the ass, and professionally, and also as a member of the community, because people do remember you. People do remember things that you do in the community, right? So if you are an active jerk on the field, people will remember your face and always use that against you, especially in this day and age with, we can always record stuff and on it. Once it's on the internet, it's always going to stay there, right? Whether we like it or not. But yes, that is something that I am actively thinking about constantly whenever I go to the field. I try my damnedest to make sure that I am on my best behavior, and that's not really that hard to be. But even when I'm having, like, say, a shitty day at home, right, I try not to bring that to the field because no one else should have to suffer because of that. My problems are my problems alone. I'm there to have fun, and so is everyone else, and everyone might be doing the same thing. So it's just common courtesy to be nice. But yeah, as far as specific things that I'm doing, if I notice that a player, it's because you're always going to notice, I'm sure you've had this too, where players, especially younger ones, are having technical difficulties with their airsoft guns. Something goes wrong, most common ones being like, oh yeah, my gun's not firing anymore, or it's not feeding for whatever reason, right? Stuff like that, I will try my best to do, because I can do a little bit of basic troubleshoots, and I'll try to fix it right then and there. And a lot of times, I'm successful at it. I'm able to, like, oh, okay, your bucking just ripped or something. You might want to go out and just buy another one. Thankfully, we at GI sell, you can get one for like $10, right? Something like that. Or, hey, you're just using bad BBs, swap those out. Here are some of my personal BBs. Or I'll just tell them, like, hey, the pro shop sells BBs. You can buy some right there, right? Stuff like that. Or, worst case scenario, I'll just let them borrow my guns. Right? They, especially little kids. There's one instance specifically where this kid and his mom had actually gone out to Wildlands. They did the whole rental package and everything. And they were having fun at first because they were on my team, but I noticed that the kid was having a lot of trouble with his gun. It just wasn't feeding anymore. It just refused to feed with the magazines that he was using. I even tried my mags and it didn't work. So I told him, you know what? I got like 4 guns in the back of my car. Take my 249.
Yo.
I just said, the thing
Yo.
was, he was 8 years old though. So
Yeah.
I didn't think about it. I was just like, hey, this is kind of cool. Want to shoot it? And he's like, yeah. And he was like, oh, it's so heavy. And he's waddling on the field with the 249.
yeah.
But hey, he had a blast shooting it. He was like, this gun shoots so fast. Right?
Yeah, I think that's like really, that's something that I think we kind of share in common is like being charitable on the airsoft field. Like lending your spare guns to newer players, just to give them a different experience is like, it's super fun, like I've had some players, like loan me like their like high-end scars back in the day, or or Taylor with this crazy DMR builds back in the day.
417s back then.
Oh, dude, his 417s were nuts, bro.
Godly.
Yeah. But again, it goes a long way. It gives I think newer players kind of perspectives, like, oh, like if I keep playing in this hobby, like I can get my gun to shoot like this, or I can get a gun like this, and it keeps them wanting to be a part of the community. And so like I think the most recent example was like at BB Wars, I think. So some people will come up to me and be like, hey, like my gun died or whatever. I'm like, yeah, here you go. Let him use my KWA, or I think another BB Wars event that we did a while ago. I had some kids ask me like, oh, is that a KWA, blah blah blah. I was like, yeah, you want to shoot it? And they're like, really? And then I give them my mags and my guns, like go like go, like use it for one life. It's like, and then then they'll be like, oh, what about my gun or whatever. It's like, here, I'll hold on to it, and then now they're gonna be KWA fans.
Now they're KWA fans for life.
For life, yeah.
I always find it like funny when because I've done the same thing, right? Where it's like, yeah, let's just trade. So we'll use their guns, right? Whenever I loan someone one of mine, and I'm like, oh man, this hop up is not set right.
Yeah.
So while I'm at it, I'm just like, might as well just properly set it for them,
Yeah. I mean, but even off the field, like I'm always kind of looking for people like, hey, like are they staying hydrated? Like if I have extra water, like hey man, like you want some water? You don't look too hot, don't look too good. Look a little too hot, yeah. Or making sure that they're like eating enough food, or they're getting enough food while like after they play and stuff. I mean, I've given away like speed loaders, BBs, I'm pretty sure at some point like I might have given somebody like an old gun of mine, like it might have been like a pistol or something.
Oh wow!
Like that. Yeah, no, because I didn't want it anymore. So I was like, hey, have it, take it.
Here you go.
You're better off with it than I am. So here, take it.
I've done the same thing with like pieces of tactical gear, like certain pouches or like belts or something. I'm like, I don't really like wearing belts in general, so I'm like, here, just take it, right? Just giving it to someone, and they've been like very, very grateful. Seeing their eyes light up about it is always super cool. But you know what instance actually made me really, and I'm glad you brought up the hydration thing. What made me realize, oh wow, I really need to be checking to make sure that everyone's good on like the field. the first time that I went to play at Wildlands with Taylor, you sent me an invite. We went, and it was 112 degrees that day.
Perfect.
Oh, I hate
Perfect airsofting weather.
Ugh, disgusting. It was so bad, right, that I was having to like strip off my clothes in the middle of the field, right? I was literally shirtless.
So you dehydrate even faster. Nice.
Taylor had actually had a heat stroke on the field. He actually collapsed entirely.
Really?
So
I don't remember that.
Yep, I had to carry him to the staging area.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was a game of hide and seek, or specialist, is that what the game was called?
Maybe.
No.
Might have been the last game of the day, though.
It was literally the last game of the day, and he was like out. He's like, yeah, I can't really move right now. I was like, crap. So I had to literally just carry him and bring him to the staging area. Taylor's heavy. He's very heavy. So I had to carry him out there and like had to give him, proper fluids and everything. Yeah, it was pretty messy that day. But ever since then, yes, you're right. That's always a good thing to do. Always check to see if your fellow players are hydrated. If they are incredibly famished, like, hey, just if you have a little snack or something, just offer them like an orange slice or something.
Yeah,
just something with a little bit of sustenance to keep them going. That's always going to be very important because again, health is something that we should all take seriously. If someone's experiencing a health emergency or a crisis of some kind, or they're about to, always a good idea to look out for them and just avoid that altogether. Because, and on a more practical sense too, it'll also stop the game if you end up like letting it go, right?
Yeah.
Like freaking, how many times does Wildlands have to like close off entire maps because of rattlesnakes?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that and so when it comes to like health and safety, I just remember like iPro. Lending out spare eye protection, that's a big one, you know?
Big one.
Yeah. The player's like, I can't aim down my sights, this mask is too bulky, here, try these goggles, Or like, oh man, like I forgot to bring my eye protection. Oh, okay.
Here you go.
Yeah, spare
mask.
So, hey, like I might never meet these people ever again in my life. Like I may never get to play Airsoft with them ever again. They even might be the enemy team at some point. Like, hey, but at the end of the day, like I want to make sure that that they continue to play Airsoft.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least have a good experience while they're there, right?
Yep.
And again, I think that's actually kind of a good piece of advice because if you really think about it, the like full face mask that you get, like the paintball style mask, you can usually get them for like sub $30, right? Just having a spare one or a spare set of goggles. Or
better yet, even like the Lance Tactical like Aero goggles, like $20, or the ASG Strike goggles that me and Isaiah use. And no, they're around the $20-$25 mark, yeah. But yeah, they're affordable.
Yeah, very affordable.
Affordable eye protection that you can actually use for Airsoft. It's rated to play Airsoft, It's Airsoft battle tested.
Battle tested.
Gosh.
Battle rated. Great. Oh no, it's at the end of the day just having spare sets of like tactical gear, like, and the things that are important. We're talking iPro. That's going to be very, very cool of you to have that in your field. Because again, I've had that happen before, right? Where iPro just wasn't working for whatever reason, or players literally just forgot, right? Especially at Milsim games. You ever notice there's always that one guy that forgets their iPro? Always that one guy.
Yep.
So you gotta like lend them all your stuff, right? And it's fine. Again, that's what it means to be a good member of the community.
Yeah, because imagine if like you pull up to an Airsoft field and you're ready to play, and you're suddenly, because you don't have your stuff, you can't play, and no one's willing to like lend you or loan you. Like what does that say about that community?
So I mean, we've gone over plenty of different means of like being a better member of the community, and overall, I just want to say like we actually have one of the best communities ever, and it is amazing like what we've been able to achieve with this community, with the Mayo Gang in and of itself. Like I always take a step back and look at it and compare it to like other communities, other hobbies that we're in, of course, and I'm like, our community is actually really damn wholesome if you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, specifically with the Mayo Gang, I think we have made like a sub-community within a community, but just like any other like hobby community, I think that we need to stay vigilant and make sure that we cultivate, a very healthy hobby culture. So, everything we talked about, we want to encourage, or for you to even think back to a time when maybe when a more experienced Airsoft player might have helped you when you were starting out, or maybe do a little self-reflection on yourself and how you conduct yourself on the Airsoft field, and see how you could be a positive impact in the community.
No, absolutely. I think we can all like learn a couple things. And if you're doing any of this stuff currently, but you want to be, I highly encourage you to take everything that we've said so far in this podcast and go out and try it for yourself and see the results that it comes out. But honestly, speaking of like amazing community, I gotta say there's something also beautiful that really came out. It's gonna be a bit of a shameless plug. There's no way to avoid it. But another amazing thing that resulted in the community that we've built out, it's got to be the Mayo Gang MGC4 Mark II and the Mark I.
That beautiful, beautiful bronze. I mean, look at that finish. It's actually because I specifically requested for it. I'm sure other people in the community has, but I remember when the first Mark II came out, I was like, what about this, but in bronze?
And they said, okay, why not?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, the MGC4 Mark II, I mean, the whole MGC4 series, like Cisco, right there. Yeah, he pretty much came up with, this is kind of his brainchild.
Gang.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
His like beard hair is like so prickly, but
it's so itchy. But no, like
yeah.
this is something that Cisco and the rest of us in the marketing department, and with the help of you guys in the Mayo Gang, the community helped really develop this gun. We listened to all the feedback and all the suggestions that you guys put out there through our social media, through DMs, through all the posts. We were asking you guys in live streams as well. We literally would put out the blueprints of what we wanted to come up with, and you guys would give us your feedback. So this has been like a collaborative effort on all parts, not just with us and Lance Haddock, but with you guys as well. And that was actually something we wanted to touch base on before we end this podcast was, what would you guys like to see for the next iteration? We had talked about a little bit on my live stream that, maybe introducing another line of Mayo Gang guns that are going to be, instead of full metal, maybe making them even more accessible, making them all polymer and therefore more affordable.
Yo, what if there's a KWA original for the MGC4?
Honestly, I kind of would like that, like some Mayo Gang original.
Ooh, yeah. It's a
MGO.
Yeah. Mayo Gang original.
MGO. I would like to see that.
Dude,
again, KWA,
yeah.
if anyone from KWA is listening right now, again, I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure most of the community would actually be down for that. I know I am.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like community-driven feedback is always key. Especially for any business, especially for an airsoft gun manufacturer. Like listening to community is always a plus. But I mean, even though technically that the MGC4 series was like officially Cisco's brainchild, but the reality is like you guys helped make the gun.
You guys should be proud of it too.
Yeah. So it is what we like to see. It's a community achievement. And so. I mean, with all your input, all your feedback, we're able to get a gun made that is still relevant for what it comes with is pretty dang affordable. Like it doesn't have any unnecessary bells and whistles that that a company will need to charge extra for. It has pretty much everything exactly what players would want out of the box, and keep it running for a long time.
Absolutely, an airsoft gun developed by airsofters for airsofters. But again, guys, let us know down in the comment section of this what exactly you like to do to be a better community member. What would you some suggestions you guys would like to put out there that maybe we didn't cover? And again, what would you like to see for the next iteration of Mayo Gang line of guns? Let us know down in the comments. We always read them. Again, make sure to go and leave a thumbs up on this podcast and share this around with as many people as possible. Let's get all eyes on this. Helps keeps the camera rolling and helps keep the lights on. But until then, it's been another episode of the Range Talk Podcast. My name is Isaiah.
And Boaz.
We'll see you all on the next one.